Hi all, my name's Trish Roberts and you're listening to Live Vegan. This is podcast number 13. I wanted to share another essay by Dan Cadei from his blog Unpopular Vegan Essays. The link is unpopularveganessays.blogspot.com. The title of his blog is What is Wrong with Vegetarianism? The word, quote, vegetarian, end quote, was introduced in the middle of the 19th century. Since then, it has come to mean a person who excludes flesh from mammals, birds, and fish from their diet, but includes other products from mammals and birds, specifically breast milk from cows and eggs from chickens. In this essay, when I use the word, quote, vegetarian, end quote, or vegetarianism, end quote, I mean a person, in brackets, or practice, end brackets, who includes dairy and eggs in their diet. By contrast to vegetarians, vegans exclude all animal products from their diet. In addition, vegans do not use animals as resources or commodities, in brackets, that is, do not exploit animals, end brackets, for any purpose, in brackets, clothing, entertainment, experimentation, or profit or gain of any kind, in brackets, no matter how, quote, humane, end quote, end brackets. Essentially, vegans leave animals alone, except for rescuing victims of animal agriculture, the, quote, pet, end quote, industry, and other forms of exploitation imposed on them by humans. The moral problems with vegetarianism. Many people are vegetarians for ethical reasons. They object to either the treatment of animals in animal agriculture, or the intentional killing of animals, or both. Paradoxically, despite their objections to the treatment or intentional killing of animals, they continue to consume dairy products and eggs, which, as we will see below, certainly contribute more to the suffering and arguably as much to the intentional killing of animals than the consumption of meat products. In fact, to the extent that a vegetarian replaces calories from flesh with calories from dairy and egg products, the vegetarian has increased his or her contribution to animal suffering. Quote, free-range, end quote, eggs. Consider the lives of, quote, free-range, end quote, hens. Quote, free-range, end quote, egg producers generally purchase layer hens from the same hatcheries as traditional egg producers. Half of the chicks born in the hatcheries are males, who are, quote, disposed of, end quote, often in cruel ways, including being thrown alive into machines that grind their bodies up, or into trash bags and or large dumpsters where they either starve or suffocate to death. Further, since, quote, layer hens, end quote, typically are not sufficiently productive after 2 years, they are sent to slaughter at that time. The, quote, free-range, end quote, egg industry relies heavily on the routine mass slaughter of animals to be economically feasible. The lives of, quote, free-range, end quote, layer hens before slaughter are generally a living hell. The, quote, free-range, end quote, egg label means only that the birds are permitted some access outdoors, even if it's only a minuscule fraction of the space of a large shed in which they live. Because of intensive overcrowding in these sheds, and because chickens are social animals who have a literal, quote, pecking order, end quote, their sensitive beaks are cut with a hot blade, in brackets, to cauterize the blood flow, end brackets, so they cannot hurt each other in trying to establish an impossible order in such crowded conditions. Also due to the crowding in a large, often poorly lit shed, the conditions of the typical, quote, free-range, end quote, facility are filthy with excrement on the floor in which the hens live and extremely poor air quality due to the lack of ventilation. In addition to the harsh living conditions, the hens are genetically designed to be enormously productive in laying eggs, which causes them to be less healthy than traditional hens. The poor health of layers is largely due to the fact that chickens who are not exploited eat most of their eggs, in brackets, in natural conditions. Only a small percentage of eggs hatch, end brackets, replenishing the nutrients they lose in the eggs they produce. When their eggs are taken from the hens, the hens lose the opportunity to replenish the nutrients lost in producing the egg. Genetically designed, highly productive layers lose even more nutrients and end up even poorer in health because they lose more eggs to humans than natural hens. The egg production of hens peaks when the hens are around 7 months old and drops significantly at around 15 months old. To get an extra 6 months of production out of the hens, free-range producers will engage in a practice called forced molting to imitate the conditions of the winter-spring transition. In forced molting, the hens are starved for several days, up to 14 days, and the lighting in the shed is dimmed. Hens can lose up to 30% of their body weight during this starvation process, and some of the weaker hens, already malnourished from not being able to consume their own eggs, are killed as a result. Several weeks after the forced molt ends, production is back to normal. After the quote free range end quote hens are quote spent end quote, a condition in which they can no longer produce eggs at a commercially viable rate and in which their health has deteriorated significantly from both the wretched living conditions and from losing nutrients from egg production loss, the hens are transported to slaughter. Both transportation and slaughter mean some of the most intensive cruelty the hens have yet experienced. They and their bones are very weak from giving so much nutrition for so long without replenishment from eating their own eggs. When they are handled roughly in transportation and slaughter, their bones are often broken. Also, layer hens are generally not used for human meat consumption. The meat is of very poor quality due to the poor health of the hens. Quote, free range end quote, hens end up at the same slaughterhouses as any other chicken, where they are often intentionally tortured, hurled against the wall and stomped upon by frustrated workers in poor working conditions with low pay. Even if the quote, free range end quote, chickens are not intentionally tortured, some miss the electric quote, stunning end quote, bath and neck blade in brackets from struggling upside down in their leg shackles end brackets, and instead are boiled alive in the defeathering in brackets scalding end brackets tank. Commercially viable egg production, regardless of the label, in brackets, quote, free range, end quote, cage free, end quote, or, quote, organic, end quote, end brackets, is extremely cruel to chickens. As mentioned above, hens who are not exploited eat most of their eggs as a natural way to replenish many of the nutrients they lose in producing eggs. Even in the best conditions imaginable, such as in a sanctuary or in the wild, it is unhealthy and exploitive to the hens to take their eggs from them. When we add the extremely cruel living conditions that, quote, free range, end quote, hens endure, along with the mass slaughtering that is required to keep egg production economically feasible, consuming eggs simply makes no sense at all for anyone concerned about the treatment or slaughter of animals.